Squirrel monkeys lack sweat glands, except in their hands and their feet. And so to cool off in the Brazilian heat, they will urinate on their hands and then coat their body with the wetness so that they can cool off. Let's talk about that and more fun or gross squirrel monkey facts while we sketch this little primate. So let's turn the page and get started. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 in the morning on a, goodness, is it Tuesday morning? Where has the week gone already? It is already Tuesday morning. On Tuesday mornings, I like to do a little thing where I pull a toy from the toy box and I draw it and we talk about it. And today's random object from the Random Object Randomogrifier, which is the toy from the toy box, is a squirrel monkey. Now, I'm not sure why they gave it the name squirrel monkey, other than the fact that it runs through the trees with its tail flipping back and forth like squirrels do. I'm not sure that had anything to do with it, because who knows what goes through the minds of Europeans when they say, that looks like a squirrel, we're going to call that a squirrel monkey. Don't get caught up in the details too soon. Who knows what they were thinking when they did it, but it may very well have been that their tails flip back and forth in the trees as they run through the trees. These things are about the size of a large house cat, or maybe the size of a pineapple. 10-14 inches long, about 1 to 2 pounds. They're not very big at all. And they are specific to South America. They are a New World monkey. They are specific to South America. Good morning, Rick. Good morning, Dad. Good morning, Mom. They do have a very, very long tail. And I don't know if the 14 inches includes the tail or not. For all I know, it could be 14 inches nose to butt, and then the tail adds another 10 inches or so. I have no idea how they measured that 14 inches. But as I said when I opened, they're in the tropical heat, and they can only sweat in their hands and feet, which is great for grip, but not so much for cooling off in the tropical heat. And so they will urinate on their hands and rub that all over their body in an effort to cool down. They're chatterboxes. They have about 25 to 30 distinct vocalizations that when they call to each other, they know what they're saying. I don't know if we translated any of them, but it would be interesting to find out what they're saying. I bet it's something like food, danger, come make out with me. I doubt that it's very much intellectual.
Okay.
That's most of my vocalizations. What?
Their body's 9 to 13 inches long, and their tail is longer than their body.
Okay, so if their body's 13 inches long, they could be a total of 25 to 30 inches from
Right.
from tip of the nose to the tip of their tail. That's what I thought. I didn't think they included the tail in their length, because that is a very long tail. And when you look at a picture of them, they're the size of a house cat. And it said they were 10 to 14 inches. Well, if they're 10 to 14 inches and they've got that very, very, very long tail, that would only make them about this big. So that Diablo girl sneaking in, and Pamela. Good morning, Pamela. Good morning, Diablo girl. They travel single file through the trees. I can't hear things like that without thinking about that line in Star Wars when he says sand people travel in single files to hide their numbers. So every time I hear that, I immediately hear it in Obi-Wan Kenobi's voice. But they'll follow along. They like the 1 to 1.5 inch branches, and they'll follow along in procession in a single file through the treetops as they travel as a troop. During mating season, the males will bulk up by storing water between their skin and their muscles, and they'll bulk up to 20% of their body weight. They'll gain an extra 20%. And then as soon as mating season's over, they'll get fit again, which is the exact opposite of humans. Humans get fit to attract a mate, and then as soon as they get a mate, they gain a bunch of weight.
So if you have a mate that you like, you're going to keep that mate forever, give up on the fitness.
It's hard to stay fit. She's a good cook.
Yes, she is.
Their genus name is Siamiri, which is lifted from the Tupi language, the indigenous peoples of one of the indigenous peoples of South America. And the name literally means small monkey. Which I thought was kind of rude. Hey, small monkey. Look at you, small monkey. We're going to call you small monkey, small monkey.
Stop it. I'm not small. The world's just big.
I hear that voice all day.
I'm sure this is from the Safari Primate set. It had an orangutan and a gorilla, capuchin. Squirrel monkey. I don't know if it had a spider monkey in it or not. I'm not sure what the major differences are between squirrel monkeys and spider monkeys. But I'm sure we'll talk about that when I'm sure a spider monkey will come up. I think spider monkeys are a lot smaller. these things were used for scientific research for the medical pharmaceutical industry, because their neurological, their vision, their neurology, and their reaction to infection diseases is extremely similar to ours. And so they were a good candidate to test diseases and medicines on, which from a 2026 mindset is horrendous. But from an 1800s mindset, when you realize that everybody was dying of influenza, and they had people dying of what seemed like a common cold, anything that would keep them alive a little bit longer seemed like a really good idea. So if they could test on animals, they would. From a 2026 point of view, when we have all these other options like computer models and AI and terminally ill people who would happily volunteer, it seems horrendous that we would capture a wild animal and put them through that. But you can't judge historical figures from today's lenses. Any more than you can claim that the stuff that you believed when you were 5 and 10, I'm sure there's stuff that you believed when you were 5 and 10 years old that made perfect sense to you then, that you wouldn't dare talk about today. But the fact that it still goes on today is infuriating. I can forgive Dr. Smith from the 1880s. I can't really forgive today's Dr. Smith. Can't talk, Arting. All right, that's my favorite part. If I've never told you before, that's my absolute favorite part of the whole process, is the shading part. That gives the whole thing life to me. Lifts the whole thing up off the page. Until then, it's just lines. But once you do that, it becomes a dimensional object. And I just love it. All right, let me dry that real quick, and then we'll come back with some color. Chat's quiet today. Everybody okay? Let me dry this real quick. Rick says he's arting. That's a good thing.
Can't talk.
Can't talk. Arting. It's a good thing. That's a good thing. In 1959, NASA sent a squirrel monkey and a capuchin monkey into space. The capuchin monkey was named Mrs. Abel, and the squirrel monkey was named Mrs. Baker. And when they came back down and they did all their studies on them, Mrs. Abel got an infection from the surgery when they removed the probes, and she died 4 days after they landed. Because that's the capuchin monkey. But Mrs. Baker lived another 25 years. She got married. They had a ceremony. She got married on a naval base. She had babies. And she died at the ripe old age of 27 in 1984. I don't know if she felt like she had a good life, but I doubt very many of the wild squirrel monkeys live to be 27 years old.
Emma says, all is well here, just thinking about your rain and honestly a little jealous.
Oh, you need some rain? It's been a couple of days since it rained here, which is odd for Houston this time of year.
Rick says, we think we are chatting, but we are arguing instead. And Rick said, we like being a part of your broadcast.
I like having it. I like the fact that you're arting along. I like the chatting. I like that we're friends.
Rick says he guesses the monkeys age like dogs and cats.
You know, I'm going to bet so. I'm going to bet that they have an accelerated rate compared. You know, it's not so much that they have an accelerated rate. It's that it's so much shorter than ours. It's not so much that they're so much they're living so much faster than us, like 7 years, like a dog, saying a dog in dog years, that's 7 years to every human year. It's just that dogs typically only live 10 to 15 years. These monkeys typically only live, 10 to 15 years. And if you spread that out over 25 years, then you're saying that every year is like 4 years is like 3 years to a squirrel monkey. So yeah, it's like saying, it's kind of like the same thing where it's in dog years, I'm dead. didn't mean to do that. Yeah, that'll work. Now then.
Rick says it's often the space power. I heard that before.
It's often the only art I get to do. I know they live a lot longer in captivity, but that's a slippery slope, because captivity is an issue for these guys. They're cute. People like them as pets. I don't think purple's the way I want to go here. Maybe I don't even want a background. Maybe I just want a yellow background. I need something to make that face look white. If I leave them on a white background, and I have that shading on that face looks like it's gray or something else, and I need it to look white. So we're going to darken the background. We're going to tint the background with something that will bring out that lightness in that face.
What a nice little monkey. There's sometimes, like yesterday, goes out there from just feel sleepy.
Yeah, oh yeah. Happens to me sometimes too.
Claudia's just passing by the table.
Good morning. Good morning, Claudia. Happy lunchtime. Yeah, I don't blame you. It's 5:30 in the morning, Rick. Sometimes I fall asleep here too. All right, let me dry this real quick and we'll ink it. Funny, I was just going to ask her what she's having, and she pops up with melted tuna sandwich. Claudia's in the Netherlands, and she's having lunch with a friend while she's watching. And I was like, "You're having lunch? What are you having?" And before I could even get the question out, melted tuna sandwich. Yes, that sounds fantastic. Rick says, "We thought you were drying your painting and you were just napping." I'm not gonna lie, there have been times I have dried paint just so I could sneeze or blow my nose or curse off camera. that happens. They're having problems. They're having problems because of the excuse me, their small stature and their cuteness makes them popular in the pet trade. And so they're having problems with that, and the fact that they swing single file through the jungle. They can't really swing and jump past anything that's over 6 feet wide, and they've cut power lines and roads through their jungles, and so that cuts them off from being able to travel through their regular routes and prevents the different groups from getting together to mate, which causes inbreeding, which causes a higher mortality rate. And so they're having some troubles. Some of the groups, there are 7 known species of squirrel monkeys, and like the black squirrel monkey is down to less than 250 individuals that they can identify. But they've gone from around 200,000 animals in the 70s to down to less than 5,000 animals. So that's specifically the Central American squirrel monkey, and that's a specific breed, different from the black squirrel monkey, different from that they have the Humboldt squirrel monkey. There are several different squirrel monkeys. There's 7, and of the 7, 3 of them are fine. 2 of them are sketchy, and at least 2 of them are threatened. Today is the 19th. Is my pen out of ink already? How does that keep happening? Didn't we just do this? I tell you what, when you use your pens, they run out of ink a whole lot faster. That's crazy. That's crazy. Claudia said, I explained you all as my friend. I explain you all as my family abroad. My mom comes back and says, we talk about you too. That is absolutely true. We'll see a weather report in northwestern Oklahoma, and we'll wonder how Pamela and Rick are doing, or northeastern Oklahoma. We'll wonder how Joe's doing. We'll talk about. I'll come across something on YouTube, and I'll talk about something Claudia did or Ivy did. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. Everybody in my family knows exactly who I'm talking about. So there we go. Didn't stop the camera. There is my squirrel monkey compared to the photograph. Let's see it from my perspective. There it is from my perspective. So that's what I did today. Tomorrow, what do we have tomorrow? Oh, Oh, the suspense. What could it be? It's a ball. What ball is it? It's a bingo ball. It is bingo ball 193, which means nothing to you guys until I show you that I had to pull object 193 off the shelf. That's what this tag is on here. This tag tells me that is object 193, and object 193 is a lake sturgeon. And we will talk about how initially fishermen thought this was trash. They would throw these up on the beach and dry them out and use them as fuel to burn their fires in their boats. And we will talk about how in the 1880s they harvested 4 million tons of these things, and how now they are harvesting less than 100 tons of these things. So we will talk about all of that tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m. Texas time. So you may want to set your notification bell for that so you don't miss it. But guys, thank you so much for joining me. I do look forward to this every day when I get to art with my besties. It is my favorite time of the day. It holds me accountable to my art practice, and it is often the only art I get to do in a day. Thank you so much for joining me. Claudia, Rick, Pamela, Diablo Girl, Mom and Dad, thank you guys so much. I do absolutely look forward to this every day. I run down the stairs just to be here with you guys every day. So be sure and tune in tomorrow, same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel. And then we dance. We dance until somebody says they see me dancing, because when they see me dancing, I will know that the lag has caught up with the stream. It will mean that I won't get cut off mid-sentence. It gives you a chance to click the clicky thingies this way if you're on the horizontal, or this way if you're on the vertical. It gives everybody a chance to say hello and goodbye to each other and share any information that they may want to share. But again,